Very good. Oh. Okay, I'm going up to the country now, so I will. Yeah, the kids are going. The little ones are going to teach them to ski. Not the baby. Okay. Listen, feel better. I'll call you and see how you're feeling. Okay? Take care. Bye. We're going to have to pull up in front of the building and unload my stuff.
Yeah.
So, that in mind, I don't know if she took that off the 1, the 2, or the 5, but so either way, it was okay. Here we are. Now, this is the 60 spot. So you must have jumped it right over here. Is that right?
Correct.
That would have been about 7:31 your time.
7:35 actually.
Okay, that's all right. Here, 7:35.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's when I put.
Yeah.
7:32.
All right. Yeah.
Black people should not drive in this way. I'm sorry. Nothing. I mean, I'm sorry, I thought that.
That's a fine entry. It doesn't really matter if it's a 2 or if it was a, it's all a great spot to get in. My question is this, let's talk about this management a little bit. And ask you, what is it that made you want to, I can see, when you get down here to...
We're coming back Thursday evening,
Yeah.
and you'll come and pick me up at some point then.
Because you covered it at
Meantime, you
32.
will have gone.
No, actually,
Unless you want to go Friday morning, but that's kind of late.
I started
I go
covering
Thursday night if you can.
Okay.
To
because I
Costco?
thought I was coming back
Yeah.
into that base.
Yeah, I'll go there and I'll
Yeah.
I'll buy the stuff and I'll come pick you up and then we can unload
Now,
it.
the meat might be really expensive. Have enough on your credit card, I'll give you a check right away.
And I see it's
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you when I see you.
Meat could be $75 a thing, that's times 3.
Oh yeah, because already the bill is like $1,000.
What bill?
I mean, with the car being in the store shop and
Yeah.
and
You
the
want me to
things
give
that
you
I bought.
now? You want me to give you a check?
No, let me get the
Get the Costco.
the Costco thing. Plus next week is salary time, so let me put everything together. We're gonna do the bills. I mean, what do you call those? The receipts
They
is here.
start piling up like
Now,
that.
and in actuality,
tell me, I'll
guys,
give you a
here's the tough part.
The first month of the credit card, it's interest free.
This chart now,
Why should you have to
we
do
know we
that?
got this support area.
Listen, if I have problem, I'll talk to you. Though.
I'll pay you right
And
away.
this is where you probably would
When you
I understand, but by the time we get there, what is going on?
I can see this small level. It didn't show up on the 15 and the 60
He's
spot.
backing out.
But I can see this area to a certain tab. And even this 5 minute, this 5 minute
kind of
was a bit of a
emergency?
concern. I can see you covering this.
Is there something
And sometimes you just get that environment where you're not willing to give back all of your profit. You have to take what you can get.
This,
And so, this one's a little tougher because with this base right here, I can certainly see you wanting to be a little careful with it. And it did have a reaction to that bay. Unfortunately, that
What are we
5-minute
doing
bar
now?
is that reaction. This 2-minute bar from here is
so he's looking at me as if he doesn't see I'm not coming out.
And then it turned around and just kept going. And this one's a hard one to get back on, actually.
There you go.
We were lucky.
When right in here, this is a hard one to get back on.
Down there, it's an oil truck.
Yeah.
A little easier back over here on this side. But nice some spot
Because
over
the
here to
streets
get a little
aren't
bit to stay in this one. And also,
Nothing wrong with the streets, it's wrong with the drivers.
shake all of us
You know
out
what?
just
If you
because
want to go down to
this is a
72nd
picture we
Street,
have
go down to 72nd. You don't want this.
that is not a good picture
Just go
for
to 72nd.
in our
Yeah,
parts.
yeah, especially with this truck there.
Or excuse me,
Yeah.
this is a bottoming
Oh,
part.
go to
This is
72nd.
what creates bottoms. And this is really what how
Oh,
we typically read them, really kind of how we're trained to read them, because most of the time it is. It is. Now, there's only one, and I really am not going to critique this trade any more than you have, Jose, because in actuality, there's really nothing wrong with the way you manage that trade. Personally, I like to, when I've got a wide range bar like that, I like to give it a little bit more room, like this 2-minute hit, because I know I'm going to get a little reaction to this, but this thing came down so hard, I will definitely, I won't trail on a one. This is a personal issue, and I'm not saying you should change it, because this is where, guys, this is where coming in and riding, and that's the one thing I really want you guys.
Check who's in front of you too.
That you're now creating some rules to follow on a regular basis, and so that when you get into trades, it's not quite so willy-nilly, and the emotion isn't quite as strong. In that, when you get into a trade and if certain things occur, then your rules will change a little bit. If this was a slow grind down, I would be more concerned with having a bounce here. The way this came down, and the volume wasn't huge, but it was a nice pickup in volume from what we've had. Given that time of day, there just isn't a lot of volume there yet. The U.S. market really isn't involved yet. So it was a pickup in volume. While it wasn't huge, it was still a nice pickup. And that volume, or that bar, this wide range bar here on the two that we're looking at, leads me to think that's a good breakdown bar. Boy, there was a bunch of stops hit. And that's the message that I had at this bar, is that there were stops hit. And it's very evident that that's true. So a reaction down here is pretty normal. But when you have rules that say, okay,
There
if
you
I
go.
come down that hard,
This is
I will give this a little bit
This is for a wheel.
to play with this base,
Nice joke.
because if it worked down a little slower,
Yeah,
But I bet he doesn't do anything. What's he
it
doing?
really just tells me that there is the same
I
amount.
think he's going to lunch.
He's going what?
To lunch.
It's a pullback. This pullback.
Go to lunch. Put your
likely
plow
have
down. How
bigger,
about is that?
or maybe I could say this retracement back into support.
No, he only wants to
There would
drive
be a
on the
bigger
streets of the
response
plow.
to this retracement or to this pullback back into support, and I think they would probably have a far
No,
more
that's
likely
something.
chance of coming back up into
Well,
some
that's good.
resistance areas and having a higher bounce when they don't come down quite so hard. Now think about this. You're going to say something, Jose.
I'm going to actually ask you,
Okay, tell me.
the conflicting points of conflicting ideas is obviously
They plow the airport
retreat
and they have snow melters,
on a
trucks with
24 hour.
heat in them.
And that
Yeah, I don't know why they don't have those here.
And
if it goes up 70 points, right?
they,
So one of
No
the
light.
no,
We have green light. What are you talking
green
about?
light,
I
absolutely.
don't cross lights. This is the worst you can do. You know how expensive it is and how many points?
Go to the light.
Yeah. It's 3 points plus thousands of dollars.
With my mother one day, a truck came barreling down the street, and the light was our light, and my mother held our hand and held us back. And I said, "Why? It's our light." And she said, "Just wait a minute." And the truck went barreling right through. They would have killed us if she hadn't left.
It's a trend. Up to
And from now on, I never trust
up to
trucks.
that point,
I never trust anybody. When they come barreling at you and the light is your light, I don't trust that they're going to stop. I wait till they stop and then I cross,
but
even if it's my
basically
light.
just
Oh yeah, especially if you're walking.
My mother saved our lives.
now when
If we crossed that truck, could never have
down
stopped.
to that area where I
Little
saw
things like that.
certainly at that point he was making
You see how he doesn't know how to drive? He puts too much gas in the. He's spinning the wheels. Little bit.
These are
look at that
Pakistanis.
No, the turn. Otherwise, the rest is easy.
5 o'clock and 8 o'clock when you have those topping deals.
I'm going to give you,
Yeah, the
you can
people.
take, you can use your mouse.
Right here. Okay. So it came up again, it pulled back, it broke. So the one is clearly.
These guys know you, and they know me, and they know everything. So.
It's been
1 second.
steadily going up.
Sorry.
And we
I'm
have a nice
recording.
bar over here, which obviously gives these void along. But, you know, if you go across, this could have held.
It could have held. No, I agree with you, Jose. I do. I completely agree with you. The comment I was making, the way it came down, leads me to believe there's a little more selling in there than you see. To notice this going up. That's real controlled. There's nothing. It's just consistent, and even though the time of day is pretty nothing, it's the Europe market's open, but that piece of that little advance was really quite controlled, and we can all recognize that. This is quite controlled as well, only there's some serious commitment to it. And my only comment really was that I was pointing out is that I'm not saying that you did the wrong thing here at all. Given what you're describing, I agree with you that being prudent here, being careful here because of what's going on makes sense to me. My only comment is that this bar, the message in this bar is a little bit different than the message in the bars that we're looking at over here. Because this is very controlled. I mean, the ebb and flow is those retracements are all quite shallow. There's no real break of any resistance or supports here, and that's the best description. It's just controlled. However, this one is a very different message than anything in this other side, and this is the one that leads me to believe the stops got hit pretty darn hard in this. So for a short period, at the time being, the longs are going to be a little bit scared of this thing. They're going to want to see some more substantial buying or support before they get all over this thing. I'll give you a second, Max, to deal with that.
Sorry about that. I thought I had.
No, that's cool. No, what I really was saying, Fax, I know you stepped away just for a second there, is the message in this bar here is different than what we've been seeing over here, and anything in the top. This proved to be, and I'm skeptical of this sort of reaction anytime markets have been underway for a long period of time. So we undoubtedly got a pickup in volume. And any time we've had a long move and then we have a range expansion, it is of a bit of a concern. Okay, so you look at this on a 15, and I don't know what's there on a 60 as far as, it doesn't look like there is. Could be a little base up underneath here. Now there really isn't anything here on the 60 that says this thing is topped out as far as resistance goes. There really isn't much in here to hold it. So I wouldn't say that there's significant resistance at this top. But I've found that after the move's been underway for some time, and then you get, both in time and distance, then you get these types of bars that don't have good follow through to them. Again, guys, go back to our bullish consolidation that we like. The description of that and what we like to see in a bullish consolidation is that essentially we hold these levels. You go back and look at them. Once this wide range bar comes up, the next small bar after our wide range bar is typically the one that will hold that bullish consolidation. And so when it doesn't do that, then we're not getting the kind of follow through that we want to see. So to answer the comment, Jose, covering this thing in this area makes sense to me. I don't fault you at all for covering it and protecting yourself. All I'm suggesting is perhaps consider that as you guys watch these in the future. I hate this darn thing. Watch these in the future. You see a bar like this that comes down pretty darn hard. Usually, again, guys, think about what's going on here, and this just takes some time to think about this and become a little more familiar. But this tells me there was a bunch of stops getting hit, and that's about all I can assume from this, because this pattern, as you say, has been intact, and really up until we break this, we're still in a nice uptrend, and there's no reason for bulls to get worried. But they've now broken this base, and that's what triggered this big sell. So stops got hit here, and I suspect the guys that are long here are a little reluctant to get right back into this until they see some stabilization, and it didn't ever really occur. That's the only comment I want to add.
I was not, if you put on the 5 minute, I was never good at tag growing up, because if you look at that 5 minute, the only 5 minute bar that was broken was the one that got me out.
Yeah.
Other than that one, I could have been in for another 70 points.
Yeah, and in fact, again, that's just the luck or the unfortunate break that this darn little support area, and you read it right. Okay, guys? Is my sound coming through good?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Let me know if I'm having troubles. I just got a little note that says my little pop-up says that you may be experiencing connection difficulties. I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay. But no, I see that, facts, and this is just a tough break. Sometimes this just occurs, and again, with the support over here, I'm not saying you didn't do the wrong thing at all. It's just unfortunate. The only thing that I'm suggesting is that at times, you may be able to leave those things, give them a little bit more berth, and not taking some off is 100% prudent. I would kick you if you didn't take something off there. But you can sometimes give those a little bit more berth. And what I'll try to do, what I've found, is usually that I can come to this stop. Even with this, now, this would scare me. For me, I'll usually not offer out, depending on what's going on. I'll not offer out much. In this first thing, I'm going to take a third, usually at most, in this area. And I'll be focused really, down here again, somewhere in this area where you were, facts. Not a problem. I think that's good. My next area, I'm going to take, initially, I'm going to let it try to break this little pivot bar here. And then I'll usually leave a third on that will stay a little better than break even. Because in order to get that bigger move, I've got to let it retrace, because this is the one thing that sometimes we do, is there's our next area of resistance, and it can still retrace up into this area, and particularly with this bar down, the good thing about that bar is that it creates a bit of a shock in that there are some real stops hit. But the bad thing about that bar, as you don't really know, is that the bad thing about that bar is it also creates a bit of a void. So that's why taking a little off down here makes some sense as you come into this support area, wherever you draw that line, wherever you like it, it can be all the way down into here. But wherever it is you're comfortable taking something off initially, offering out smart, and then I like to trail a little 2-minute high like this, and then I'll leave the part up here, hoping that I can get a little bit more move. But the only thing that tells me, or the only clue that I really see in this whole thing that says this thing could have gone further, was this big wide range bar that breaks down. That's it. the rest of this, on any given day, I may have felt just like you did, and I try to trade in partials of 3. And there are times when things are really tight that I'll trade in halves, or occasionally, rarely, I'll take everything off in one shot. That doesn't happen very often, but thirds and halves is my common exit, and so that wasn't a bad read at all.
Let me ask you one other question.
Yes, sir.
On your 2.
Yes, sir.
And tell me whether I'm reading it correctly or not, because I saw a head and shoulder on the 2.
I can see what you're saying, because if you're thinking about it, this is what we want to see. There's our neckline. Here technically is our shoulder.
Correct.
And here's our head.
Correct.
Okay, I can see what you're thinking.
So one of the things that I was saying to myself was, after I was actually out, is I was, and following your thought of what do I want to see, I was hoping that it was going to come back to this area where I was going to short it again, being the right shoulder. But unfortunately, it never came back as high as it did, and I wasn't able to get back again.
Yeah, no, actually, and having that thought, I think Jose is perfect as well. There's nothing wrong with that. The one thing that we need to do, and this is tough, guys, I don't have an answer to this other than just chart time, and that is, even though we say this is what we would like to see, we can't get so committed to the fact that it has to happen that we can't find or can't do something different. So when I say this is what I would like to see, then I'm truly looking for that or something very, very similar to occur. But you just have to be open to the fact that maybe it won't happen, and if it doesn't, what would be acceptable? Yeah.
Following that thought, I think one of the things that you had mentioned was take the second short, which in this case was this one. This will be the first one, and then the second one. That's why I was. The fear that I had was it was going to come here again, come back up either to this general area or higher, and then it will give me that second entry to short. Because again, I still had the way this bounced from here. I thought that if it came back to this area, it should have or would have bounced again, forming a nice right shoulder, and then take it around. I mean, perfect would have been up here, but even if it came to this area, that would have been my second entry. If I'm following what you taught us correctly.
No, I completely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. And that's the trick, is we don't always get exactly what we're looking for. We really don't. So when it comes, it's just great when it comes, because we're all waiting for it. We're all loaded up, and we have expectations, and they're easy to monitor, and there's nothing better than a trade that actually comes together as you expect it to. Anticipating this, there's no reason you shouldn't have facts, and actually seeing this develop, I think is excellent, because the first criteria that we have in a head and shoulders is that it does come down and essentially test this neckline, which it did right here. So a little retracement back up is ideal. And again, the only thing that goofed this up is this bar. There were a bunch of stops hit, and that's really what it had no ability to bounce, is that there just wasn't anybody willing. That it's like the elementary school bully punches you in the stomach, and you bend over catching air for a minute, and these guys were not willing to stick their foot back in this after getting punched in the gut, and so that's the type of thing that usually you don't see these things get retraced much, these kinds of bars. And when you do, there's a huge message in it. Either you just stay the heck away, or you get ready to go long if this thing will get retraced. So that's the thing. That's the only thing is there was some significance in that bar. The other thing, guys, if I flip over to a 5, and I got to tell you, this is hard for me. I will take these, but it requires a fairly big stop, and I have to know pretty well that this is going to work. And I don't really care for them too much right here. But anytime you can push through either a bottoming tail bar like this or a topping tail bar, and you have clear void, the chances are this thing's going to keep going. This bottoming tail bar completely gets ignored, as you can see on the 5 minute. You don't really see that over here on the 2. Or, well, the same thing occurs, we just don't see it the same way. This 5 minute bar, and if you go back and look and watch, anytime you push through these bottoming tail bars or topping tail bars get ignored like this, they tend to follow through, and particularly where you have a little bit of room for them to move in. The bad part is it does require a fairly big stop. As you know, guys, I don't like those big stops. So whether I would take this just depends on if I had good money in the bank already during the day, if I was feeling good about things and I was quite confident on the first change of a trend change like this. Would I take this? Probably not. I probably wouldn't be taking this short just because we ignored just a bottoming tail. That's kind of a hard one to play. So after it's established and the trend's underway and we come up against some resistance and then ignore topping tails, I like to take those long. As they break through resistance, ignoring topping tails, I like to take those long. But taking these shorter is a little bit more difficult. I agree. But this is a fine trade. Any other questions? And we'll go on to the next one here. Okay. This next one actually fits more of what we like to look for, I think, in terms of a break of support and then a retracement back into, and this is it, a retracement back into some, oops, wrong button, back into some support areas. And so this one makes more sense in terms of getting on this one. This is a pattern that we're clearly more trained to see, right? I mean, you guys see this. I know you see this because you guys are drawing these on your charts now, and I'm seeing on your charts that you're making these comments, and you're waiting for retracements back into overhead support or a base to get short again. And this one is an easy one to see, and that's a good short to be taking. Jose, did you get this? You got to just slide up to your mic.
I'm sorry. I was trying to look at, I was just checking to see what my trades were to see if I took down one, because I think I did.
Good.
And I actually, I don't think I made that much out of it. I would remember if I took that one.
Oh yeah, that's something run.
All the way through down. I'm trying to see what trades I took after that, because I had a couple that were not very good trades.
Yeah, there's what it looks like on the 2 minute. And guys, one of the things that I really, really like is when these are starting to come up into this sort of thing. You guys, I think we talked about this. These things, I really like to see good green bars like this get ignored. Okay, there'd be nothing wrong with taking this short right here. Now your stop has to be, obviously above. into the ETR before he moved his stop down, that there was an awful lot of volume. And I know that both oil and the euro and back to any other contract, once you get this move and it's gone down, guys, I see, Dave, you talk about this frequently, is we've got, and I don't really play it this way, but we have 1 move down, 2 move down, 3 move down. And look at each move. 3 waves. I don't refer to them as that, but I do look at the moves. And the distance on each move has been getting shorter, right? I find, and Jose, I'm making a short or a long answer, or a short answer long, but I find that usually 3 moves is about all you're normally going to get without a consolidation period or a decent retracement. You can get more, but typically 3 is about all you normally get, and then you got to start watching for, some serious retracement after the 3rd one. And particularly, you can see this, the distance between each move becomes more compressed, and that's typical. That's normal. So, looking at that, in fact, I didn't take this long because at the time I was on a phone conversation with a client of mine, and I would actually just tried to take oil long. But at any rate, I didn't take this long. But it makes sense to me to try to take it long, even if all you're doing is scalping it. And the place that I would take it would be after we have a retest. So this bar is okay, but I like to see the bars get taken out. This bar to me is really good, and you guys recognize that bar immediately as a shock bar. Let's change this to a 2-minute real quick. So this is the area that appeals to me. Now, had we traded above here, then this would have been a fine bar to get reversed. We didn't ever get there. But had we traded above here, this one would have been sufficient for me. Now, guys, in my opinion, the door is open for us to get back up into this upper area of resistance now, as you say. Jose, back up to 60 isn't unreasonable because, think about what we're doing. So the first problem is we got extended with volume, and then we have a breakdown failure, which you kind of have to expect. Once you get that climatic volume coming in, the guys, one thing, just as I point this out, this volume is not climatic in and of itself, but it is climatic in relation to what's going on in the environment that we're trading in, because there's no volume anywhere. I mean, gosh, the E-minis just have no volume. This contract has no normal volume. So this isn't climatic. I mean, if this was the 1st of December, this wouldn't have been a climatic move based on the volume, but it is climatic today. Does that make sense? Just because of this environment, this poor environment. So in relation to what's happening today and this week and next week, this is climatic. So here's our breakdown failure, here's our retest, and then we're taking out our W. There's the middle of our W. So these are the failures that I'm looking for. And now, yes, I think we're going higher. I think the likelihood it could have bounced around a little bit more. Yeah, the dollar's starting to come back down a little bit. So the whole message says it could go higher. And then you have to evaluate, does the quality justify me take a trade? But I like what I'm seeing for being long this.
If you were watching this, where specifically would you enter?
The 5-minute gives me the best picture. That's usually not true, but with this low volume, that shock bar, this is the ideal place for me to get in, is right here. Right when we trade above here. So 13 or 14 is where I'd want to be buying it. This is a beautiful picture, guys. This little 5-minute, if it looked like that on a 2, I would still take it in the same place. I'd want it to cross the top of this bar, which puts us in around 13 or 14.
You know, I took the previous one for
Where,
a
Jose?
couple points. I believe it was 08.
Okay, that's still
here.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then I got rid of it at around this area around here.
Yeah, good trade. And you know, guys, here's the thing. Now, in fact, one day I'll have him come in and talk to us. And if you guys want him in, there's a very good. Oh, there was a big stretch. That felt so good. Sorry, guys. There's a very good friend of mine, Mark Hedgepath, who you guys have seen in the room from time to time. He and I have traded together for a few years, and he is an incredibly good scalper. Okay, and he can scalp the pants off of anybody I've met, and he just is great at scalping. But I've tried to be, you know, over the years, I've tried to be a great scalper as well. And in the right environment, I can be that scalper. But generally speaking, when things are trending, I don't like to scalp. And I'm actually going to come to a point with this discussion. Sorry. But what happens to me, and that's something you're going to have to conclude and see if it does it to you, but I'm just going to say be aware of this and be cognizant of this, because one of the things that happens to me is I get into a scalp mentality, and I don't look any bigger than that 8 or 10 or 12 ticks I'm looking for, and I'm taking stuff on and off and on and off. And guys, I can scalp. I really can when I need to. But what I find it doing is, more often than not, is that it does get in the way, and I don't let my bigger trades run. So what I have to do is I've created some rules for me to follow, and that is I will scalp climatic bottoms like this, like Jose, like the one that you're talking about. I don't mind picking off these bottoms down here, and on a 1 minute, let's go over and look at this on a 1 minute and see if there was a retracement, because that's what I'm looking for here. There really wasn't. Okay, what I would have loved is after we got this bar, and that's where our volume came in, okay, after we got this bar, one more push down on a 1 minute, and I would have bought that 1 minute. Now, we didn't get that little retest on a 1. It basically just kind of popped and went. This one would almost classify, but I want it a little bit lower. So this is the area that I'll scalp for the first move up, and I'm only looking for it to come back up into this chunk. So I want to try to get it as close as I can to the bottom, and watching these volume bars will give you the clue of when it's time to start getting ready to go. And that if I'd have got one more little bottoming tail on a 1 minute, just a little failure of any kind on the 1 minute, little retest, I would have taken it up. Had we taken out the bottom of that bar and then popped back up, that would have been enough for me to get long. But it didn't actually set up that way, and so I won't scalp this one. But what I've learned to do, guys, is I'll scalp this first one, and then I'll say, okay, and in fact, usually I'll leave one on or just a little chunk of something on and just kind of trail it and see where it goes. And if it does what it should do based on the 5, it will come back down and retrace, and then I can take a bigger position over here on this side where I am expecting it to take out resistance. I won't be selling into this, I'll be trailing into this, and then I'll trail up here. So right now, for example, if I were long, and I'm not, I'd put a trail stop here, at least on most of it, and I may keep a little bit of it down here on this as a couple of points better than break even, just to make sure that I can try to get all I can get, because this tells me it should go higher, and I could get into some junk that violates my support only to move on in my direction and get me in trouble, or leave me alone. So yeah.
Let me ask you one question. Now we're looking.
Yes.
Can you put in the DX, the $5 with the Euro 5?
There's the $5 minute right there. Oops. Okay. Dang it, I can't do that anymore, guys. I need to bring it in differently. There it is.
Okay, that's 15.
This is the 15. Oh, let me switch it. There's a 5.
Now, this is where I get into trouble.
Okay.
The dollar's pulling back into what I perceive to be support.
Correct.
The obviously the euro is pulling up to what is resistance to the left too. Which one, if any, do you give more
Credit to?
credit to?
I'm just going to move this chart over. I don't know. I don't mean that. I mean that I don't know which one's going to win, and that's why I use trails. Knowing that this is coming into, and I read this truly, as I read this right now, Jose, I'm saying this is very small support. There's big support down here, more in this area. So I'm thinking that realistically, I would like to see this thing, the dollar, come all the way back down here. Now, will it do it? I don't know, but I'd like to give it that chance. So unless I see a real reversal bar or something on the dollar that just says this thing's done going down, then I'm thinking that there's a pretty good chance this could continue to work a little higher. So I'm gonna let that work get out. I would like to let it work out, and give this thing some room. Because as I read what's going on here, I think it can go back up to the 60 area where you described it.
Which is part of, when I look at it, yes. And then all of a sudden I look to my left, I see the dollar, and I see it come into an area of support, and then I start second guessing.
Right,
so
right.
Even if I had taken a trade long somewhere just a couple of minutes ago, whatever it was, I would be now sitting here trying to take something off only because of what I see on the dollar.
Okay, that's fine. But here's the thing, and this is where you have to wait, and you have to be willing to sit through a little more junk. If you're going to get the bigger move, you're not going to be able to do it without sitting through a pullback or two. And so if you want to get that, then here's the attitude that I have come to that lets me sit through these situations. It's in this condition, Jose, like you say, there's no reason not to take something off even now, right now. To take something off makes sense. But I'm going to leave something on the way I've described, because I know if this darn dollar can continue to weaken, and that's an if, I don't know that's going to happen. I'm already positive in the trade. I can't get hurt no matter what, and it's free trade now. At the end of the day, I'm going to make money on that trade. End of story. I just don't know how much. So I'm okay with just letting that sit and walking away from it, and then monitoring it as it goes. Then if I get a really bad looking 5-minute bar, I may take more off. But I'm going to leave something on to see if I can't get that move to 60. That's all. The only thing that I can tell you is you've got to be willing to sit through a move or a pullback. But in doing it, you don't want to leave all of it at a pullback. Okay, you don't want to. You got to take a little bit off up here, and if you're only trading with 1 or 2 contracts, that's much tougher to do. So I like to trade, like I say, in thirds, because that gives me about all the flexibility that I want. So you just got to be willing to sit through it. And even if it takes this first one out here, even if we lose this first red line of support, it's not necessarily ruined my trend, because I know it's extended. And I've got this retest that failed. Nice shock bar. Yeah, I can see everything that's going on, time of day, everything that comes into this. There's reason to take stuff off, but not reason to get out of the trade. Not yet. If you're willing to sit through and wait for a bigger move. If you're happy with the 20 ticks that you just picked up, or the 15, take them all, walk away, and wait for your next one. And that's really where the rules come in. What rules do you want to play by, and how do you find it better on your psyche, taking the 15 and 20 ticks when you get them, and not worrying about a bigger trade. Those are your rules. They're never going to be mine. I can't. I would never try to tell you how you have to trade those. I just want to give you the options so you can create the rules. Does that make sense?
It does.
No.
It does.
Okay.
Sorry about monopolizing the time.
No, Jose, don't. No, because guys, you guys, and today, nothing's going on here. I'm not. When the hour mark hits, I don't care. We haven't started our lesson yet, so we're going to start our lesson when we're ready to start our lesson. So we're not really monopolizing much time. I want you guys to go through these things. This is what the light bulb. I remember going through this as I was learning and sitting with Greg a little bit like this, and there were times that the light bulb just pops on, and then all these other little concepts that I had heard and I was familiar with kind of all start coming together. And then I said, oh, okay, yes, now that makes sense to me. Now I understand how these things, work together. And so for all of us, I want you guys to stop me and let's take the time and let's answer the questions and work through a few trade setups, because I think that's where we really learn. And as you guys are processing what you're doing, what you're thinking, rather than just trying to memorize or absorb what I'm telling you, you guys, this is where the lights will come on, and the ideas and thoughts that you guys have will get cemented, I think, a little better. So these are important parts of the lesson. Okay, any other questions on this?
Sorry, go ahead, Fat.
You don't give pivot lines much weight, do you?
Well, I watch them on my other. I don't have them on these charts, and the charts that I've got up here are just for lessons. I actually have them on my Euro, so I keep a 2-minute chart that has my pivot lines on it, and I don't give them a great deal of weight. I know that there's some other traders that watch them, but not near to the extent as do the E-minis. So I'm just cognizant of them, and if support's lining up there, then I'm going to act accordingly and perhaps take something off, or at least tighten the stop. But as I've looked at them, let me see. One of these charts has pivot lines. There they are, right there. Okay, let's look at these pivot lines. All right, if we were to look at them the way we do E-minis, guys. All right, we had a problem up here, granted, but this pivot line, even on the 5-minute, really had very little effect. There was some here, but is there at 90? Let's go look. Was there support at 90? Well, not really. Not really. There was some here. We went through this one rather quickly. The daily pivot had very little. Truly, I mean, it didn't have a great deal of effect here. 37. Yeah, we're more coming into support here on the 15. I don't find that they have had near the influence that the precise influence that the E-minis pivots tend to have. So, we blow through the S1 down here, and even though we turn on it, we clearly come 10 ticks below the S1. And so that's the thing, Jose, is I watch them, but I don't give them as much weight as I do on E-minis. That's just me.
Okay.
And guys, the thing that is interesting is, again, I know we talk about this, but for better or worse, for me, guys, I just I give 90% of my weight on the bar-by-bar analysis. Support and resistance and bar by bar. What does that individual bar tell me? What's the message in the very bar that's forming right now? What's the message in the one next to it? Was there follow through? Was there not follow through? That's the stuff that that I spend the most time, and that's where I put the lion's share of my evaluation is just in the bar by bar. Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
I'm really sorry. I got pulled over here. I'm in my car and I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. You know, on the oh yeah,
Here in your car?
yeah. I'm really sorry, man. You know, on the Euro that you are right now, on the 15 minutes you were discussing it, and I'm sorry if I'm wasting your time with it. Just 1 minute.
No, you're fine.
I got along about your 8 o'clock on the 5. Where is it? I don't have my. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Right about your 8 o'clock here on the little double bottom, and I entered on the 2 minutes there long. I was thinking just a little scalp for like 15-20 ticks, but and I saw that we're close to like some support on like the 60-minute there. So I'm thinking I don't trade the Euro so much, but I just took 2 contracts, and I got out at 50 after the second topping tail. That you told me that Kurt called short there, but isn't it the wrong short?
Yes.
To call short so close to support there? I mean, it worked out this time right now, but in general,
Right.
I got out of my trade at this point, but I did not reverse there because it was very close to support.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
right?
No, Carol, your observation is a fair observation. I don't care. See, guys, this is I get mad at myself. If I, for example, if I miss this one, I'm going to be mad at myself. This one is just too obvious. This one comes back. This has all the rules that we're waiting for. Okay. So to enter here, you could scalp this down. And in fact, that's what Kurt did. You would have to, you would have to anticipate that if I'm trading this, I have a very tight leash on this baby because it has already traveled so much, and this becomes my third wave essentially. Yes, your answer, your comment is accurate. This is a very late entry in this trade.
Okay.
This simply is. Your expectation should be that this will probably have a fair amount of difficulty at this low. We've already started getting climatic volume, on this wide range bar down. After it's become extended, it's coming into support areas. I'm with you. This is not the best trade to be in, but it will work, and it's usually worth scalping.
Okay. Thanks.
But
okay.
the point is, this is very important. That is, in one of these, I would offer out. I would just offer out down here, and then trail some, and see what I get. But to expect a big move out of this, no, we're not going to. Typically, you won't on the third wave down. On the third move down, you're not going to get a big move. So if you decide to take this, and the fact that you passed it, I like. Because guys, here's where we develop the discipline to actually become profitable month in and month out. And that is, we have rules, we live by the rules, and right or wrong, even if the trade worked, even if it worked that time, if our rules are correct, we know that at some point this trade's not going to work, and we know already that our odds on this trade are lower than the previous entries that we saw. So then we evaluate, is that trade for me? Maybe it now becomes a scalp rather than a hold trade. But guys, the important part here is that yes, now we're making some rules, and now we have something to follow that tells me this, in this situation, with what's going on now, this is how I'm going to trade it. We're not going to trade every setup the same, and so it's really important to think through this as you have, Carol, and figured out this is a low odds trade. I just don't want it, and it's good to have that. It's good to pass these trades. Truly, it is. This is what keeps you from getting into too much trouble. Most traders overtrade, not undertrade. They overtrade, and that's what gets them into trouble. So having a rule that says I don't like this trade, even though it might work a little bit, I don't like it. That's great. I love it when you guys will pass trades that don't meet your criteria. Now, if it proves that you missed all the good moves because your criteria is too tight, then you got to fix that. But none of you guys are doing that. So don't even, I shouldn't even bring that up because it's not an issue here. You guys are not missing good trades. But being very specific about the trades that you take is a very good talent to have. So, no, if you didn't like this, it's not. It's much lower odds trade than the others, simply because it has already moved so far, and we are coming into more support as we get down into this area.
Can you comment on what happened? Basically, I talked about the dollar reaching area support and the euro technically a resistance, and then it actually did what I thought it was going to do, which was going to bounce off. Is there something about those bars? Because we consider long from the bottom because of all the things, but obviously it got to a point where other traders disagreed with us at some point. Was there something about those set of bars and the base and the way it broke that would have led us to believe that, in fact, because honestly, as much as I was seeing the go to 60, it would not have surprised me that it came back the way that it did.
So, Jose, I'm partially confused. There's my 60 on the very far side. So tell me, take the control and tell me, what is it that the question you say with what's happening with the dollar or what have you that made you change your mind?
When we looked at the 5, and I think
okay.
This is 5, correct?
It is, yeah.
Okay. When we looked at the 5, we specifically talked about the dollar coming into an area where there was some resistance, and then on the, this was the euro. On the dollar, it was pulling back to an area where it had support to the left.
Correct.
The question is, which way is it going to go, one way or the other? And we did have the buys because of what was doing here, and because it had gone such a long time. The 60 was an area that it could have gone. But is there something about, these bars individually that said, you know what, this is probably going to come back?
Yes and no. Again, well, back up. Depending on the time frame, I think is the right answer. And what I mean by that is, again, if you're scalping, where the heck did that go? There we go. That's the chart that you were referring to. And this is the dollar that comes down into this small little area. Yeah, we've got this little base over here, this little pivot high over here, and that's what it came into. And so, do I know which one's going to win? Guys, I don't. I truly don't. And I think your question is appropriate. So what tells us in here that that's not happening? Well, I guess the only thing that tells us is, first off, if you remember, I had my stops here, and I had a better than break even here. So, in this case, again, this trade would have taken me out all the way, and we did take something off up here because we knew what we had up there. Okay, so under this scenario, this bar probably would have told you we got problems. We got a shock bar up here, and it did work its way slower down, and that's appropriate to take something off. But guys, until you break support, nothing has changed. So again, if you're scalping, then yeah, you're going to want to take most of it off based on what we're seeing over here. Let me just go get a 2, and you can see it even on a 2. This is the stuff that, and even this bar, this shock bar over here, was a bad bar to have happening on a 2. We would have, if we're scalping, we know we don't like that bar. You guys all recognize that. That's not a good bar. That's a big shock bar that just occurred right there, and that's not what we want. If we got a short stop, tight stop, we don't want to see one of those. So that was the clue that this thing wasn't going to hang. But again, where do you leave your stop? You could. Some guys will leave a stop all the way down here. and this will still trade. I still think we're going to see 60 out of this thing, Jose, at some point yet today. But I could be wrong. So that's why we use it. That's why we use the trail. We use the stops. We use the bar by bar management. The truth is that in any trade, we don't know what's going to happen. We have a pretty good idea based upon what the message is we see, but the reality of it is we truly don't know. We can't know.
Right. My entire question is because I find that I'm able to recognize areas where something's going to happen. Unfortunately, what's lacking in my trading is that many a times I'm taking it the wrong way. So in a situation like that, and it just may be, there is no answer to that, but, this is not the first time that I see one getting to support, the other one going to resistance and saying, okay, based on whatever it is. In this case, I would have thought it was going to come back. The euro was going to come back because of the way it was the dollar was contracting.
Okay.
It was getting smaller and smaller and smaller as it was getting to that area of support. So that to me would have been what I would, lead me to believe that the dollar, plus, realistically, it's in an uptrend.
Yeah.
So it's in an uptrend coming to support. But I don't necessarily read it right all the time, so that's why I'm trying to see.
Okay. No, and actually that's not a bad comment. And let me go flip this one to $1, and we can see this together. And this is, and I'll go to a 5 because this is the part that you're talking about. This is where it's getting tighter and it's compressing. That's what you're referring to, is this area right here.
Correct.
And here's our support area. Okay, I'm with you on this 100%. The read is good, but having said that, let's go back over and look at this chart. And this is what I think helps keep, if you're looking at the big picture, all right? Now let's go back to the same premise, guys. And even though this came back down, the question I asked you, is it a shortable trade? And the answer to me is no, it is not. Now, it may scalp, but I'm not even going to take this one as a scalp. Okay, this one doesn't interest me as a scalp, and the reason being is even though it worked today, all right, let's go back and look at what's been going on here. And again, I know we've talked about this, but again, I just want to point this out. And this is the evaluation I think we should all be going through. Number 1, we're extended. Number 2, there's a breakdown failure. Number 3, there's 2 retests. And number 4, we take out a pivot high. What does that tell you? That picture right there, if that's all I'm looking at, okay, if that's all I get to see, then this picture tells me that I am changing trends. That's what this picture tells me. This is enough for me to say I am changing trends. That's all I have to look at. I expect the trend's going to change from this event. That's my anticipation. Will it work? I don't know. But this is enough evidence that 8 out of 10 times it's going to change trends. So I don't want this short. This long that's occurring right now makes sense to me based on this evaluation. But this short doesn't, because this becomes counter trend. A pullback is fine. But as we put the big picture together, and we have to do that with all the trades, is this whole picture, as we put all the parts together, these 4 events that have occurred, tell me not to short this. I don't know how high it can get. Do I think it can get up to 60? Yeah, I do. But that's only I think. But I don't want to short it because, again, guys, this sucker is climatic, and I've got these events that are going on. This tells me it's bottomed out. Or, let me tell you, the vast majority of the time, this baby has bottomed out. Now, if this goes sideways for a while and has some more failures moving up, now I can change my assumption, and I can clearly read that we're just not getting any buying, and that this could break down and go again. And then I would look for a failure up in here later, perhaps to short, and then I could read this as a bearish consolidation. And then I just simply flip to a 60 and say, where can it go? Well, it can go somewhere between 80, 75, and 50 is where it can go. But looking at even the 60-minute chart, I don't think the 60-minute chart's going down. I think we're going back to 60, guys. Now, they haven't finished yet. But look at a 15. The 15 doesn't tell me lower either. 15 suggests stabilization to higher. Right now, that's what it suggests. So this is why in the context of the big picture, I don't like this as a short, even though it would have worked for a scalp. And what I find is when I'm pushing against the tape, so this is what I call it, is the trend is up or trying to change up. And I don't want to be against that trend because a few of these scalps work out. I've gotten to where I can usually scalp these little counter trend trades and get a few ticks out of them. But as I've mentioned to you before, what it does is it takes me out of the game for the long because my mind sees shorts. She sees short setups, sees short everything. And when this occurs, all my mind tells me is, you got to cover the short, Neil. It doesn't tell me, you big dummy, what you really should be doing is paddling on this sucker for the next long that is in the direction of the trend. So that's why I try to avoid these counter trend shorts unless I get into consolidation day where we're trending between a top and a bottom, and that's all there is to do. That's not the case today. This is extended enough that a retracement back up into part of this this pullback makes sense to me, and I still think we're going to get it. So you look at the 30-minute, and if you look at the 30-minute, oops, wonder what I did. Let me change to a different time frame. You look at the 15-minute here, guys, and if you use simple fibs, which I never do, and I can never get them on here, right? In fact, do I have them? Is this the right fib? Did I draw them right? Yeah. Basically, I drew them right. Look at this. You've only got a 30% retracement back to 60. Your fib traders are going to be all over this back to the 38 line on a retracement here, on a retest here. So I think that's not that big of a retracement given this whole move is back to the 30. So can it do it? Yeah, it can do it. I think it's logical that it could do it. So that's as I put that whole picture together, Jose, that's what keeps me from getting on the wrong side is I just have to put together the whole picture. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because that's actually one of the things that I was thinking about is that, to do this correctly, you have to be able to identify the different patterns and then recognize that certain patterns together have a different picture altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just not taking one pattern by itself, but saying, okay, well, when you add these two or three together, and I think that's where I'm lacking, which is maybe to possibly identify some of the patterns individually. It's the putting the patterns together that gives me, problems about going the wrong way or even not staying in as long as I should.
Okay.
Here's something I want you guys to write down. Okay, these are going to be your new rules for now. Maybe you already have them, but these are my rules, guys. And I tell you what, they work. They keep me on the right way. That counter trend trades. Now, forget the scalps, and I'll let you kind of work with that. But counter trend trades, these are trades that we want to be trend directional and have bigger moves out of them. Counter trend trades occur when there's a couple of conditions, and then we can put those on. We can take those before we actually take out a pivot high. You remember, guys, you all got my chart on when a trend changes. We have to take out the prior pivot of the most recent low, etc. Y'all know that rule. There's an exception to that rule, and that is the first one is a climatic move down, a climatic buy setup. And we'll classify this one as a climatic buy setup. So this is one. Now this will help you keep on the right track, okay, and not get taking these scalps too quick and get counter trend trading. So without a pivot break, we can take long, or we can counter trend climatic buys, climatic sell setups. We can take, and the only thing I would add to that is a breakdown failure or a breakout failure is an amplifier to that trade. We can take double bottoms and double tops. And a retest is an amplifier. So on a 5 minute, I want a 5 minute double bottom, 5 minute double top, and a 2 minute retest. The 2 minute retest is the amplifier. Now, when we get into, in fact, we need to probably do that in the next 2 lessons. In fact, let's do it on the next lesson. You guys, let's bring the internals. We have not talked about internals at all with any great length. That's one of the lessons that we have that I usually bring in at lesson 4 or 5. And 4's coming up. No, 4's today. So let's bring it in next lesson. I think I took it lesson 6 on the last group, but let's bring internals into this, and that will help us with some of these counter trend trades. But those are the rules that I have. So that's the only time I'm going to counter trend trade is climatic buys and sells, double tops, double bottoms, and the breakdown failures amplifier and retests are amplifiers for the trades. Other than that, wait for the pivot to change. Now, here's what I found, guys. I've mentioned this to you before, and I'm going to tell you again, is that what I have found is that good traders do the same things over and over and over and over again. They don't expand their repertoire to include 40 different trades. They don't do it. I know some good traders that will take 2 or 3 trades a day, and there'll be days they will not trade anything. Even though the markets moved and did their thing and all, they didn't make a trade because it didn't fit the rules. It didn't fit their criteria. And that's the kind of discipline you really have to come to. And what those rules are, ultimately, are up to you guys. I can give you the basis. And rules that are going to work, you may want to tweak a few of them. You may want to add a little bit to them here and there. But guys, you just got to live by those rules. If you stop and look at the ones that got you in trouble, usually it's a counter trend trade that got you in trouble, or you didn't wait for the right entry. You got a little quick on the entry, or you chased an entry. Those are the only times you get in trouble.
Do you have a definition of what you consider climactic?
Well,
something could be extended but not climactic.
Correct. Here's now with the euro and oil, we'll actually do an oil day, guys. We're going to spend 1 day just on oil. Okay, and so I won't spend a great deal of time with that one. But volume on both of these, both the euro and the oil, climatic is a big distance like we had today, 200 points. But what I want to have with it is I want to have a climatic finish. And that climatic finish, and it could only been 100 points today, I don't know. But the climatic finish is a 5-minute wide range bar with excessive volume compared to what's going on around it. And that's what I want for a climatic bottom. Okay? So, now, here's the tough part. I find that we're talking about this, once in a while, this is our range expansion, okay? And preferably, I don't want to see it on a 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is a 1, 2, 3. This is a 5-minute measured move, in the definition of a measured move. And realistically, now, guys, I'll tell you how they figure this. And I don't figure this. I mean, I don't do it this way. They take these 2 points and they say, okay, this measured move should go about the same distance from here to here as it will from here to here. And if you look at it, just in terms of distances, that's about right. Measured moves tend to be about halfway, and your next move comes about in that same range. And while I didn't draw the line perfectly, you can just see visually that's about the right split. So I don't like the volume bar, my finishing bar, to be right here next to a measured move. Because technically these measured moves will usually carry about the distance of the first move. So if we use that as a guideline, that's why I don't like to see it here, is because if it's going to turn into a measured move, then it's got more to go. This isn't the end of the bar. And when I see things get sloppy, then I tend to be more cautious about the trades. And the best thing about trades that guys, the euro is going to go long here at 11, at 13 and 11. The euro is going to go long here. Your stop would have to be, and I'm going to take this, guys. I'm going to take it kind of light. Volume is not hot, but I'm going to take this one light because this actually still meets my definitions. This still meets, if we can trade 12, I'm going to put a buy order in at 12. Let's see if it'll hit it. But, and guys, what I'm looking at, let me just flip over this too, is, and I'll come back to that, is here's another retest. We got good volume on this one, far less volume on this one. I'd like to trade right up here. And then I think we can get this to go higher. Let's watch the next couple of bars and see what we get. A nice little bottoming tail here would be ideal. If it breaks and goes lower, then we haven't hurt ourselves, but that's what I want to see, is right now I want to see that bar taken out. I liked it better before that last 1 minute bar just hit. But at any rate, let me go back here. Is this climatic move down? Usually, I like it. If we get another couple of bars, this is kind of a sloppy bottom, Dave. So this volume bar that comes down is really the bar that gives us the climatic bottom, and it didn't form really well. This whole thing didn't form very well, but we've got this extended move. Again, there's a range expansion. There's another volume bar. It's not as high, but this is really where I start watching when I get these. In our 1 minute, you look at the 1 minute, it still had a good 1 minute volume. It's flipping over. We had pretty good 1 minute volume over there. Right back here. In fact, one of the highest, not the highest, but almost one of the highest 1 minute bars in a while. So that's what I'm looking for climatic. And this isn't picture perfect, but the essence is the same. Our finishing bar was a wide range volume bar down, and your breakout failure, or the breakdown failure, helps you. If you didn't get it down here, that breakdown failure really should have never happened.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I thought that I'm trying to see which one it is. That 10 o'clock bar, which would be
My 8 o'clock.
yeah.
Let me go back to that for you.
On the 5,
Okay, you want me to switch to a 5?
please. See, to me, this one is the one I was identifying as being the
Climatic, right.
the climatic one.
Right.
Where, I mean, I saw it move, slow down, it gave you that expanding bar, climatic. In fact, I think I took something long around this area too
Okay.
because of it. I wasn't expecting this to come back as it did. Does this
Yeah, that
fall
classifies.
definition?
Absolutely. I like this one. See, because the one thing I like about the whole move down is we break with the range expansion on the break. That's the instant gratification that we talk about on a good trade, on a good setup. That's the stops getting hit. We got another nice sized bar that goes down, and then things start to consolidate. All right, we're running into some support. I suspect, and this one, as we get the consolidation, momentum slowing, and then we get another volume break. Absolutely, this one becomes, in the normal picture, this one is a climatic bar. Again, with you, we don't know that this is going to happen, but I would have taken this along with you. But remember, this is a scalp. These are okay to scalp, and then the retest is the one that we can actually get longer and get a bigger position on and feel more confident in. But these climatic bottoms are worth a scalp and a scalp only, and then let the retest occur for the better move. Because you got to have a retest that holds, that works for a good move back up. They just don't do a V bottom here. So I like it, Jose. From a climatic standpoint, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Dave, does that help?
Yes.
And one thing about the climatic bottoms, guys, is I really do. Guys, when you can get a 1 minute retest down here, all right, on these climatic bottoms, let's go look at this one. It will improve. And you got it on this one, because I can see it on the 5. There's 8 o'clock. This, to me, is tradable. I know I've got this stuff up here, but I don't, again, if this is going to change, if this is going to be climatic, it's going through this stuff. So this retest, and in fact this retest is what I like to see. After the climatic bar finishes and all my volume comes in, this is the spot I want to be long. It's right there. That's my climatic entry, is right there. And really what I want to see is, normally I'm dumping a bunch of it by the time I get the very bottom, even a couple of ticks below this stuff, is where I'm going to try to dump this thing. Guys, this is going long. We could buy it right now. I'm actually going to buy a couple right now. I got a very short stop. This thing really had a hold at below 4. It shouldn't break 4 if it's going to work. So I picked up something at 8. Let me just go flip over to it. It ticked up, and that's where I filled, was at 8. But at this point, we need to hold. We need to hold this pivot. So I got a pretty short stop on it. It's had enough retests that it shouldn't keep going down here now. It could, but it shouldn't keep going down here now. So my target is up here. I want to get out something up in here. Okay, I'm not too worried about this. I'll see how it acts if we can get here. That's my first, obviously, point of concern. Ooh, that's not a good bar. But I'm not going to offer this one out. I'm going to offer something out up here. Actually, guys, if this retest one more time and pops up, if you didn't get it, take it up take it at 8 or 9. Because if this will pop down one more time and then come back up and take out 9, that would be sweet. That would be sweet. So let's watch that a little bit. But going back, Dave, that's that retest on the 2, on the 1. I would still buy that even today. Hey, there we go, right there. I would still buy that one even today, and then trail it. This one just didn't get going, but these are the ones you don't. Once they break and go up a bar or 2, okay, you don't let them come back in on you, because they're either going to work immediately or they're not going to work. And so you don't give these a whole lot of space on these climatic bottoms. We should see a fairly quick move off the bottom, at least back up into that first little layer, and then we can start dumping it if we need to. So, any more questions on that climatic bottom? Okay. If this thing will reverse, guys, this is a good bar. Good bar to have ignored is that red bar there. Good bar. Alrighty. Let's go in. I want to go through. This is a trade that Carol, are you there?
Yep.
You in your car? I think you're there, right? Try to unmute now.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, good deal. I'm going to use your trade from yesterday. Is that all right with you?
Of course, yeah. Of course.
The gap. Guys,
Okay.
This was a very heads-up play. Okay? And there's no other way. There's no real better way to go through this trade other than just to show you this trade that he took. Let me go get it. All right. This is perfect, guys. I just like this trade. There's everything about it I like. Okay, guys, keep an eye on that. I'm going to minimize these charts, and I've got it up in my other screen, so I'll try to keep an eye on it as well. But I think we're going to have an okay trade out of that trade. Yeah, guys, I really do. I like it even more that 1 minute got ignored. Okay. This is a really cool trade. And essentially, we won't worry too much. If you guys want to snag it and read it later or something, even better. But the commentary, I'll kind of go through that with you. But here's what is ideal, and this is combining the different time frames, both the overnight, the 24-hour, as well as essentially market hour times, so you can see how they all are related. And what I mean by that is, as you look at this chart, this is an NQ trade that that Curl made. And if you look at, first off, down here in the bottom right-hand corner, NQ's 5 minute, at the open, we opened up below the base, which is ideal. It's great. And then this is a really, you got to be just on your toes for this trade. But look at the 2 minute and look at the 1 minute and look at the shock bar, where you've got, this is your 24-hour, your top charts are 24-hour. This thing pops up and it's got all this stuff above it, particularly over the 24-hour time frame. You get the shock bar and it comes back down. And this is where the entry was, on a 1 minute shock bar. Gorgeous place. And the thing that I like about this whole thing is, first off, we're opening below support. So we broke and clearly support. If it's going to turn, this is where it needs to turn. And this should be a real problem, which it ends up being. And I like that shock bar because, guys, these shock bars, if they form up here in the top of the move, they don't fail all that often. When they do fail, I've got a 2-bar rule. I'll let, after a shock bar forms like this, I'll give it, and it's a 2-minute rule that I use, I'll give this shock bar 2 inside bars, and then if it's retracing back up into the top part of the shock bar, I'm going to kill the trade. I'm not going to leave it on way up here. And now we're not holding, guys. This didn't hold. Didn't hold. Okay, keep an eye on your euro. I'm not sure it's over with yet, but this isn't a good. That wasn't a good sign. We really should have had. Boy, if that could have just traded 9 or 10 and got underway, I think that'd have been cool. But it just couldn't do it. So now we're going to see the penalty for failing to move up. Here it comes. So let's watch this. If this bar gets reversed, gets a nice bottoming tail bar on it, it may be worth taking it again. That gives us a nice 5-minute double bottom. But coming back over to this NQ trade, guys, this is just a really nice trade. And then you're into management mode after that. That's all I can tell you, is you get into management mode. But you got the different time frames. The 15 is perfect. The 5 is perfect. And you got the nice shock bar on the 1 and the 2-minute bars. Really nice trade. That's all I can say. It's a great trade. Do you want to comment on it at all, Carol?
Not. I was gonna say, this morning that you mentioned internals, you know how we gapped a little bit on top of the base. It's not like this trade, but I think this morning, like, I shorted the Russell because like it didn't do exactly like this, but open up and on pre-market just shot up, took out the high again, but took out the high nicely and came back. And the internals, although it gapped up, were very weak, so it was nicely shortable. Like, if you also look at all the time frames at the same time, it was alright. Even the ES, but I don't trade it, was shortable too. The other ones not so much, I think.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, same thing, you see?
This is the Russell.
Actually, Greg showed us those things a long time ago. You know, when it takes out the base and comes right back, the first bar, you can play it if everything else is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I do like at the open. In fact, this is about the only trade that I'll take at the open is a breakout, breakdown failure, shock bar type trade, and that's really a combination of both here. These trades I like to trade at the open, and that's about the only trade I like to take at the open. Is this, guys? Guys, watch this euro. I'm not kidding. This thing's going to pop back up. I think this thing still can get us long. This becomes a little bit later entry than I prefer, but it just failed once where it probably shouldn't have, but it now gives us a good 5-minute double. So let's go over and look at this real quick. It's a little bigger stop than I like. But I like this thing long, but I want to let that 5-minute complete. I think I'll let this trade, and I don't even care if it trades 09 before I get in this thing, which isn't too far away now. But this, guys, in effect, this increases our odds that this thing's going to work now. Now, you've got 2 choices. You can wait on this, and your higher odds play is before you take this. Let's go up and let it take out this, if we will. And with any luck, we get another little retracement that gives us a higher low, bottoming tail on the 5 or the 2, and then we can get in back again somewhere in this area as well. So if you want a higher odds play, let's let this go for a minute and then look for a retracement on the 2 that can get us long. And that's the high odds play. That increases our odds. It puts us up higher in the entry, but it is the higher odds play. Okay, so at any rate, guys, this trade that Carl made is really nice. In fact, guys, what I tell you is go back on your 2-minute NQ, 1-minute MQ, and all that stuff from yesterday, and graph this out, and just look at this thing and look how it worked. It's a very nice trade. It had everything we wanted, breaking below support, the little shock bar, as I say. It was a nice trade, really nice trade. Now, the one thing with I was going to say is, guys, we won't spend a whole lot of time, but I just want to mention to you that gaps tend to get filled. You guys know this. Gaps tend to get filled on the E-minis. So, not every day, but frequently, gaps get filled. And if you get the setup for them, you can play the gap fill. But I'm not playing the gap fill just because we gap down. Yesterday was a pretty fair example that the NQs, or excuse me, the ES, didn't ever get off of square one. Let me go edit this real quick because I want to. There we go. I want yesterday's pivot lines. So here's the trade. Here's the trade that Curl made here. And then you look for ways, and now, guys, even though this didn't form the same way as we like to see, we've got this, we've got this, we've got this, that is, and if we look at the EX actually was the first one to break, as I recall. The Russell was the strongest, the first one to turn green yesterday. These are areas that we can look to be long. We've taken out our support, or excuse me, we've taken out our resistance. We didn't get traditional pullbacks like we normally get. But these are clues telling us that while we didn't get a traditional double bottom, these are clues. Once we break this stuff, guys, we really can't be thinking. And this retracement is very bullish. This is a 5-minute retracement, a 5-minute chart. Let's look at it on a 2. We looked at it on a 2, and now you can see the bullish type consolidation. Remember the rules that we have that we like? Again, let me just fix this. This is that bar. See, the wide range bar that we get, the bullish consolidation should hold the bottom tail of that first bar after our big range expansion bar up. This is the area we want to hold. And in this case, it does. It holds. And do we always get 3? No. We get 1 nice one. We get 2 nice one. And do you want to call that a 3? I don't know. But that bar, that's the red bar that got ignored, just like we saw that green bar that got ignored on the Euro this morning. That's our signal in. And then our stop's going to be 3 or 4 ticks below this bar. And let it go. And just let it go. It could take another 2 or 3 times before we get the breakout. But this is a good bullish consolidation. So if we didn't catch anything before, this is one that we can trade. But filling the gap is real common. And really in this case, we shouldn't be surprised that we got the gap fill. With this thing, that would have been our target, was simply a gap fill. And that's a fair trade. From 1950 to 23, there's 30. There's 10 points in that. There's 10 NQ points in that trade. And we didn't really lose a 2-minute low until we got to the top. That's a good strong move. But this pattern, guys, you got to have this in your plan. You got to have the rules. This is what we're looking for. And having those red bars ignored, those are our triggers. That second red bar, that third red bar, if you get one, just take them. You're going to be safe with them. First one's too soon. The second one is not. Third one's even better.
Nice.
Okay, let's go through, and let me just talk to you very quickly about one more thing. How many of you are now watching the Russell? I know a couple of you are. Who is not watching the Russell? Anybody? Okay, Jose. It's okay, Jose, if you're not. You can watch TW or IWM. And I would suggest that you watch IWM if you're not going to watch the Russell. Now let me tell you why. As I mentioned before, the Russell is the dog that wags the tail on the market. The vast majority of the time, you can trade other contracts. If you don't want to trade the Russell, you can trade other contracts off of the Russell in terms of what's the Russell doing. And what I mean is, if the Russell is strong, the likelihood is that it will pull up the other markets. If the Russell is weak, the likelihood is that it will pull down the other markets. That doesn't happen. I mean, that correlation isn't all the time, but it is right now. It's happening very consistently right now. So we watch that until that relationship changes, and it could easily change. It could easily change. But right now it's not. So we really just want to keep an eye on this now. And let me tell you how I trade it. This euro still a little sloppy, guys. There's a 1 minute that just triggered. If you were into that 1 minute, I like everything I'm seeing still, but it's still a little early because of how sloppy this euro is, guys. I'm not gonna take this 5 minute red bar ignored. I'm gonna let this bounce up a little bit and look for a retest. Now it's becoming, it's had a couple of chances to move up, and it really didn't perform very well. So I'm gonna let it prove it's got a little more strength than what I'm seeing so far. At any rate, look at this one. Go back to into my charts, and all I want to show you here is the relationship between the Russell and the NQs, for example. At the time that the NQs were making their ultimate bottom, look what was going on with the Russell. These are the same time, okay? And even though these bars are a little bit ugly, all we got out of this one was a double bottom that was higher than our ultimate low. So everybody got to sell off the same time. In fact, this one actually sold off a little bit more. We came all the way into yesterday's low, where the NQs didn't do that. Let me see if I've got pivot lines on here. I don't have pivot lines on here. Now I have pivot lines. But how I like to watch this is now that the Russell has established relative strength versus the NQs, they're sitting in a higher high, considerably higher high. This breakdown failure on the NQs becomes tradable if you're not trading the Russell because of the strength of the Russell. The same thing if I go over and look at, in fact, the ES is going to look similar. At the time, the ES was basically trying to put in something of a double bottom. But you can see that there's our bottom, that the Russell is considerably stronger than even the ES. So watching these contracts for failures is a good way to get, if you're not trading the Russell, and that's why I like it, is it gives you a good barometer on the rest of the market. If this is going to be taking out resistance, it's likely that failures over here to sell off are going to produce a bounce back up into resistance and beyond. So it is a very, very good barometer, and you just want to be looking for relative strength or relative weakness and trading and trading with those things. It is an excellent barometer to the rest of the markets. Any questions on that?
Nope.
No. Just
Okay.
confirm something. I think I know what the answer is. Just confirm for me. Head and shoulder has to be with the trend, correct?
No, a head and shoulders actually is a counter trend trade.
Right, but I mean the head and the shoulder has to be with the trend.
Well, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing, Jose. The head and the shoulders is what changes trend. Until we actually break the neckline, we haven't changed trends, and we're actually shorting that head and shoulders before we change the trend.
Right.
Let me go.
The right shoulder or the head is formed in the direction of the trend.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, the only reason I'm seeing it is that I'm staring at a 2 minute, the Euro 2 minute, and because it's the limited space, I have a head and shoulder there. And then I needed to look at the other 5 minutes to realize, wait a minute, it's head and shoulder, but it's not really head and shoulder because of the fact that it's not with the trend.
Yeah, and in fact, let me go look, because I've got, let me just change the screen, because it's easier. I've got number 2. Here we go. There's number 2 screen. Okay, guys? And what you're looking at is you're looking at the Euro, the 5 minute big picture right in the middle. I got a 1 and I got a 2 up here at the other side. Then I've got the dollar right next to it. Then some other junk at the bottom. But if you're looking at a potential head and shoulders on the 2 minute, let me go over. I'm not sure. Oh, you're seeing it here? Is that what you're seeing? From 1150-ish over here? Jose, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, it is. I see the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder.
Yeah, but and I see what you're saying, because what you're saying is this becomes the right shoulder, the left shoulder. This is the right shoulder. Okay. While you're seeing that, that's fine to see. But now, guys, this is where you have to be really careful. I don't necessarily like these head and shoulders. Well, back up. I love head and shoulders. It's in the wrong context. Look at what's happening on the 5. The 5 is actually trying to produce a double bottom. The 5 is more potent than the 2. And while you did get this head and shoulders here, I would never trade this as a head and shoulders, because go back to and think, okay, what has to happen? We came down, we tested this neckline. If it breaks and goes down here, where's it going? Well, if I go over and look at a 5 minute, I don't have room for this thing to go anywhere. Yeah, the pattern is there, but the conditions really don't complement a head and shoulders. And like you say, you realize that because this is a short head and shoulders when this contract is trying already to bottom. So I don't like this as a head and shoulders per se on the 2 minute.
And my point is that the head and shoulder, because we are in a downtrend, really what you would look for is for an inverse head and shoulder to go
Correct. You get more move out of them when they are the event that changes trend. As a continuation in the trend, I don't care for them as much. I haven't found them to be near as reliable or near as potent. They are very potent when they actually change the trend. So yeah, that's a good observation. See, this is the fine-tuning of your plan, and you need to write that down in your plan, because this is where we have the rules that keep us out of taking bonehead trades. Even though the setup is there, and even though the formation is what we're looking for to see, the bigger picture says, no, we don't want this one. We actually want this retest on the 1 or the 2 to get long here. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm still thinking I like this thing long if we can take out some prior bars highs. A nice bottoming tail here on the euro. On this 2 minute, take out 4. And then now things change and get interesting looking long. But things here aren't acting very well. So I'm not liking this near as much because I'm not seeing consistency in these bars. Now, this doesn't look so bad now. And I'm going to try this one again, guys. This one I'm not going to leave to the bottom. If this thing trades 5, I'm in it. And I'm going to have a stop below about 98. This is a really tight stop. But at some point, this thing's either going to go or it's not. And if it's going to not, I don't want to keep trying it. I'll give it one more shot to go. You guys can see this now. The rest of our markets look okay. The dollar looks okay. This is a place that if it's going to pop, it needs to pop right here. So that would be my entry, is really about 5. I'd like to see it take that out.
See, I have trouble with that one, with that trade.
Tell me.
Because as I'm looking at the dollar, then I have to expect the dollar to pull back, although still in an uptrend.
Uh-huh.
So,
well, okay, but Jose, let me ask you this. I know what you're thinking, and that's a fair thing to think. But the euro is, what's the euro trying to do? I mean, it's in a downtrend, but it's trying to change trends.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I would have thought that it was trying to change trends if I saw a couple of lower, higher lows and higher highs.
Okay.
I haven't seen that yet. I also see that, the dollar possibly could be a double top. And yes, if the dollar makes a double top, then you have your double bottom here and it's on to the races. But it's not dizzy. And honestly, this is a trade that I would have taken before. And I'm trying to see or come up with reasons why not to take it, because I still see lower highs and equal or lower lows to the trend I still see in every time frame as down. It is extended, okay, but I see this. I can see the euro going down more, because I can see it going down to 80 or.
Yeah, in fact, the 60-minute would suggest it could go there before it gets any serious support, right?
Right.
I don't disagree with that at all. Here's my thinking. And again, guys, you're going to see that this may work for me, because I just got burned on 6 ticks on that last one, and I'm in this one now, incidentally, with you, or I don't know with you, but I'm in it. But my stop is down here, and it is at 88. Because if this is going to work, this can't fail. This retest doesn't fail. That's the thing I wanted to see. And you may ultimately be right, Jose, that this thing could turn around and just spank me like an ugly stepchild and keep on going lower. It could. But given where it's been, and looking at the fact that we had these resistance taken out, this is how a double bottom should form. And these retests, again, like I say, this thing should not fail if it's going to turn here. This is the spots that they typically will turn. So I don't mind this as a fairly high odds play. Now, again, it's not acting the way it should, and this is 2 in a row that slapped me on this. So I'm just going to leave this thing alone now.
Your stop was 98 or 88?
98. It was 98. I took one below this because really, I've got two bars. You know, you look at this 2 minute, and I've got two nice bottoming tail bars that have hit. That one and that one. And I've got my 5 minute low retest. This is a high odds entry. It really is. Now, apparently it's not ready to go and doesn't want to go. That's okay. That's why I know I'm not going to leave my stop way down on the bottom of this. This shouldn't fail if this is the turning point. And do I know every time that it's going to turn? No, I don't know. I just know that this is a high odds entry waiting for this retest. And so I'm willing to wait for that. And in fact, I did. This is in my plan, and I'm okay with taking this. Now, see, here's the question. Does the dollar move the euro, or does the euro move the dollar? Jose, which one?
Good question. You tell me.
I don't know.
Some days I think that the euro does it because I see the flurry of the euro prior to seeing the dollar move, and then sometimes I look at the dollar where there's a very large amount of positions, and if I see those, it looks like it goes in the direction. For example, I'll see, as we're seeing right now, 100 shares here or there on the euro, but then the dollar will have like 200 or 300 shares sitting there, ready to take buys. And when I see that, I see it moving in the direction of where the big guys are sitting, and moving it up.
Okay. Well,
but other places different.
It is, and I don't know which one moves which one. All right, but I know that if the euro sets up properly and follows through with the message that it's telling me, then this thing is in fact going to affect the dollar, or whichever one's doing which. I'm not seeing a pattern that right now says the dollar's going to go lower. I'm looking at a 5 minute over there, and even they're both on. But as I look at the dollar, I'm not seeing something that says the dollar's going measurably lower right now. That 5 minute bottoming tail isn't the one. But
I look at the 60 minute, it looks to me that's going to go higher, other than, it's going into some resistance. The dollar 60 minute looks higher.
Yeah. To me. It does. I agree with you. And I have resistance up there. So as I look at the euro gives me a pattern I recognize. Okay. Now what's interesting is this darn thing, again, guys, this thing wants me to take, I want to take this long again. And because of that 5 minute bar, I'm not going to. But this 2 minute retest is still in play. This 5 minute changes my mind. But I'm not really worried. Jose, this is just me, but I'm not really worried about that dollar. I know that the dollar patterns aren't as precise and aren't as clean as the euro or the E-minis for that matter. I see more slop in the dollar patterns than I do in some of the others. So I'm not.
Absolutely. I mean, I see bids disappear in a second.
Yeah. So I'm not so concerned about what the dollar looks like right here. I know it's at resistance, and I know the euro is trying to bottom. So if it's going to try to bottom, but what are my high odds entry? That last one was a good high odds entry. This one's not a bad entry, but because of the failure of the prior, sometimes it takes two.
Let me ask you. Yeah. Would it make more sense to let it come up to that 9, 10, 12 area?
Sure.
Pull back, give you a higher low, higher high, and then say, I could take it from 15 to at least 30, if not to 60.
Yeah, absolutely.
To just trying to get in and get stopped out. Because, and again, this is stuff that I do already, which is, all right, it's only 8 points. But you get stopped, it's 8 points. You get stopped again, it's 8 points. Now you need 16 points going your way just break even.
Well, that's true. That's true. In this case, guys, I took 3 contracts. Okay, when I'm trading full lots, depending on what's going on, I'll have 10 to 15, and at times I'll take 20 contracts. So this was a real light position for me. I don't very often will take 20 contracts, but I will do it. I will get that many if I'm trading 2 different contracts. So, for example, if I'm seeing a Russell trade that I like and an NQ trade that I like, I will sometimes take 2 lots on a full lot on both contracts and end up with a double lot. So I'm not too worried about guys, I'm sorry. I have to be careful how I say this. I'm not worried about a 3 ticks or a 3 contract stop at 6 or 7 ticks, because I normally don't trade that light, and I'm trading that light because this is junk. These really, guys, I don't have a problem with that other trade that I took that failed. I don't have a problem with either of those. These are turning points. I just don't know when they're going to turn. But I still believe that the euro is going to go. My bias is the euro is still going up to 60. Well, no, maybe not 60, but at least to 30. Here in not very long, we're going to run out of the other pits are going to close, and we'll get lighter volume in the afternoon. But this is not a bad entry for me. I like these entries, Jose. That's all I can tell you. I don't like that 5-minute bar. That's what keeps me away from this retest here. This retest here that is working now. That one is a nice retest, but there was nothing wrong with the prior one. So the 5-minute bar, I look at the 5-minute, I don't care for the 5-minute, but we trade through that 5-minute tail at 06, and now we have a completely different picture because we've just ignored that ugly red topping tail 5-minute bar that closes on its low. And the dollar will come in line if, in fact, we can get this thing going. But you're right. The best trade is to let this come up, take out some resistance, pull back, and buy a higher low. That's obviously the best trade. But this is what I wanted to see 4 minutes ago. And I was just a hair early.
I understand it in terms of what the picture is and the expectations. And again, it's one of those that I unfortunately take too many times. And what I find then what happens is this. Let's say we would have got in on the 05 or 06. It will then pulse back, and then all of a sudden that entry that I had, which is the 05 and 06, now becomes resistance. And I can never trade above that.
Well, okay, but let me ask you this. And guys, this is actually, I know we're taking a lot of time with this issue, but there's some concepts here that's really kind of important. And that is, if you look at your prior 5-minute bar or your prior 2-minute bar, where is support and where is resistance? Resistance is the top of the prior bar. Support is the bottom of the prior bar. Now, trends will last, are going on in all the time frames. 1-minute trends, 2-minute trends, 5-minute trends. Now, we're trying to focus on trading in the 5-minute trend. But the 15-minute trend doesn't change until the 5-minute does. 5-minute doesn't change until the 2-minute does, and so forth. So the 1-minute trend changes first. It may be too early, but I can see what you're saying. And if you were trying to get in at 5 or something like that, does that become resistance? If you're taking out a prior bar, if you're taking out a prior bar's high, we've already taken out some resistance. So as I look at this, guys, this is and as you see, this is what I wanted to see happen on my first entry here. Well, there's the one that we didn't take. Okay, and I could have left my stop way down here, and had we already not had so many failures, I would have left my stop down here. But this one usually does not fail, guys, on this. this one actually, the truth of it is, this one actually helps amplify this trade. This is, again, you have to make a decision how many times you're going to take it. And I get kicked a couple of times like this. I'm just not going to try to take them again until I get the pullback you describe, Jose. But these bottoming tails, these are points, these are turning points, because I can go back to my 5 minute, and my 5 minute is already attempting to make that turn. So now, if I look at what's going on here, those were my two little trigger bars, and that's the place I want to get in on. I don't know which one's going to work, and it's just unfortunate for us that this one was the one that worked, not the first one. But see, now that you're here, this bar can't come back to break even. I would have a break-even stop on this trade now, because this becomes a breakout failure, which you don't want to see at this juncture. It's okay to have one up a ways, but not yet. We're just getting turned, and you get a breakout failure now, and it's a death wish. I mean, it's a death nail in this trade to have a breakout failure occur this quickly in the turn. So these are the points. This is our retest. This is our 5 minute low. This is the retest we're looking for on the twos. It was, again, bad luck that it happened when it happened. But those guys, those usually, first this one here usually will be the trigger that will keep things going. So, and then the dollar will come in line. I mean, I think that with what I was putting weight in euro, with what I was seeing the euro do, if it's going to be able to do what the pattern suggested it was going to do, the dollar would be affected by that, and they would be able to push through. This was telling me it was going to pop up. So, again, I don't feel bad about these. This is in my plan to taking these entries. So I'm okay with those entries. Now we're just in management mode, and the only stop I have now is a break even, touch better than break even, a couple ticks better than break even, because it can't come back there now. Can't come back in there now. But if you wait for the 5, then yes, you wait for some trouble up here, look for a pullback down into, and ideally, you could get this thing to go right up into the resistance area up here, and then let it pull back and come back down into support. And your support area ought to be down here in this area, or a little bit above. Let's see how these bars form. But if we get a little stabilization, a little consolidation here, then that would be your support area, and then you'd be looking for the next move that takes you up out of that. And that is the higher odds, without a doubt, Jose. Much higher odds play. Guys, Dave, how are you?
Good.
Are you hanging in?
Yes.
Are we boring you to death with this?
No, not at all.
All right. But this is what I wanted to see when this setup occurred. And, I didn't get it. But this is what I expected to have happen. What I don't expect is it to come back in, and that's why a stop would have to be where it is, so you can't get hurt.
Yeah, but can I ask you? I completely follow you what you said about the stop. Wouldn't it be wiser to put it on at the bottom, because you don't have a clear void, so you can expect little wiggles here and there, and you kept it too tight, and you see you have no void, especially on the one. So it was kind of like expected that you're gonna have a little downs and up. It's not gonna jump up so fast, because you were right. Your bias was completely right. But you see,
well, here, yeah. No, actually, it's a good question, because you're right. There is a bunch of congestion up through here.
Yeah.
So it's possible. It's possible that this could take a while to get, to get through all this junk. We got all this junk up here that it's got to deal with. And You guys can see it too. So there's a bunch of stuff up here that it has to deal with. But you know what, guys? At some point, this is what, if you go back and look at these bottoms, this stuff, while it is there, and I know exactly what you're saying is, generally speaking, this should not fail. This one
Yep.
almost can fail. Okay, so I don't have a problem. I know I've got that up there, and yet, and here's what I'm, if my thinking is right, and the timing is right, the sellers have all been worked out of this in this area over here. This last push down, this double bottom, this is just a 5 or 2 minute, but you look at the 5 minute here, and this is where all the sellers pretty much should be worked out, coming into this double bottom. So that's why I'm not really worried about. Yeah, I know it's there, but guys, if we're going to change a trend, 5 minutes double bottoms do it, and the best entry is waiting for the retest, which occurs right over here. Now, this one actually took 2, but they don't always give you 2. So that's the tough part, is you say, okay, how many times am I willing to play this? And I didn't like, as I mentioned, I just didn't like that 5 minute bar. The fact that we ignored that 5 minute bar, that ugly 5 minute bar, was a plus. Which, again, leads me to believe this thing can get back up into this area. But you've got to have a stop somewhere. I'm not comfortable leaving it to stop this low, way down below the very bottom of this thing, only because I know that my odds are these retests shouldn't fail.
The other thing is that if you put that stop that low, and it happens relatively quickly, that 5 minute bar is going to look real ugly, because it's going to look like a shock bar.
Oh, it will. You're absolutely right. You're right. It's too big of a stop for me. I just don't take those big of stops. That's why I know these shouldn't fail.
Okay.
So, this one did, but that's the nature of the game. You'll find that most of these won't fail, and that's why I'm okay with this trade. Had this formed a little differently, I wouldn't have been taken out. That was just an ugly bar. But there was no follow-through to it. That's a good message. In the 5 minute, same way. That ugly 5 minute bar, there's just no follow-through. So this is going to pop and keep going. But guys, that's I have to have rules, because I can't leave a stop way down here. And I know this retest shouldn't fail. So somewhere I've got it. Those 2 double bottoms in a row, I'm really pretty confident with that. That shouldn't fail. And I'll contribute that one up to low volume, time of day, everything that's going on with it. Just a poopy market in general. And say, Neil, you were trading in a lousy market, you knew it. And that's the price you pay. But I'll take that trade again tomorrow. Well, I might wait for a better market, but I'll take that same trade. That's a setup that I like, guys. I really do.
You know what? I have some of your trades from the room for the last couple of years. Is it gonna be alright if I bring shots and you explain them? I mean, it's been a long time, but maybe you
Sure.
can, like I wrote down when you put how you announce in the room this and this and this. So I reconstruct the trade after that and trying to figure it out. But it's gonna be nice if you tell me what exactly you were thinking.
Sure.
But it's from a long time ago.
Sure.
I'm telling you. Okay.
That's
Thanks.
okay.
All right.
It'll be this same stuff, guys.
Yeah.
There won't be anything in there that we probably haven't talked about.
Okay.
It'll be the same stuff that we're dealing with in here. But absolutely, welcome to.
Okay. Thanks.
Other than you were taller and you had more hair, right?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not losing any hair. Well, very little, I should say. All right, guys. Any other questions?
Are you really gonna bring hedge someday?
I probably will.
Okay.
When we get into the oil section, I'll bring Hedge in to talk a little bit about oil. He trades the oil and the euro almost exclusively, and he's very good at trading those contracts. He has some. I pause a little bit doing it, and I have to give you some disclaimers up front. In that, his method of scalping is so unique that I'm going to suggest that you guys don't try to replicate it. I can't replicate it. I can't do what he does. I've tried, and all I got was my clock clean. So I don't trade the way that he trades, and I'm not suggesting you should. But the interesting point is he has some very interesting observations. And the other thing is that there are a number of ways that you can trade and be successful. So the fact that we go through this exercise, and I give you all these bits and pieces that I find work for me, the same principles he is applying to what he's doing, well, he's doing it on much smaller time frames. And he's looking for 8 or 10 or 12 ticks. And he can consistently get those 8 or 10 or 12 ticks using the very same principles that we're talking about, just using short time frames. And he'll trade against the 5 minute, frequently. But again,
he uses a tick chart, right?
Well, he uses a couple of different charts. He uses a volume chart, a little bit like Kurt's 2R with the NQs, which I don't use any of. I find that 2R chart on the NQs to be a complete waste of screen space. And I put it up and looked at it a little bit, but guys, it made no sense to me, and I couldn't trade from it. And personally, I don't use it, and I put no value in it. But that's me, and it doesn't necessarily have to be you. And that's a good part. What the principles that I'm sharing with you are absolutely sound. The time frame that you use them on can vary from place to place and from person to person, so contract to contract. So, again, support resistance, bar by bar analysis, void, is there room to move? All those things are critical. But again, the 2R is just a different picture. Some guys like a 3-minute chart. And the 3-minute chart gives us a very similar picture. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but here it is on the euro. And here's a nice little double bottom on the 3-minute chart. Where do you, using the same principles, where do you want to get in? All these things, the picture's still very much the same. So the time frames is just what you're accustomed to looking at. And you can use them on a 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. I don't know if anybody uses 7, but whatever the heck it is, you can use it on various time frames. But the principles have to be sound. So I'll bring him in, and he'll when we get to oil here in a couple of sessions, he'll share some ideas with you and whatnot. But I'm just exposing you to a different method. I'm not saying you should embrace it, because I don't embrace it. Well, I don't embrace all of it. I can't trade like him. I can't.
But he used to trade NQ on 89 tick chart. Remember, you were telling us 89 tick chart and 3-period moving average. I could never reconstruct this.
Yeah, he doesn't trade that so much anymore. He used to trade that quite a bit, and actually the markets aren't quite as fluid right now as they were before. They weren't quite as smooth. They're a little more erratic right now than they were before. And when the markets were a little smoother last summer, I thought that seemed to work a little better. But he still uses that. I think he's still using a 3-period moving average on his 2 and his 1 and his 5. And I'll let him kind of describe all that. But I actually kind of quit keeping track of how he trades, because because I just knew that I couldn't trade the way he does.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much.
But see, this is a problem, guys, and this is interesting, because this is where the pullback might occur, Jose, that you were looking for. There's our resistance area. And now we're going to get this, we're going to get this pullback. And now where the pullback comes, you know, ideally, we would like to see that pullback hold this general area right in here. But this breakout failure up here is not good. But you'd almost have to expect it because of the resistance that's right here above us. But it really, we really ought to be able to hold this base. If it's going to act properly, it would be ideal to hold the top of this base where this red line is. But for a while, we've got to work off the effect of that breakout failure. It may or it may not work. You know, we've opened the door now that if I were long, I would want to be out of almost all of this now because of that breakout failure. If I kept any of it, I would have it on a break even at worst. So you can't take any money. That's not. You know, it'd be nice to have it not come back in quite as hard. That was a substantial reversal right there.
See, I agree with you, and obviously the perfect scenario would have been to enter lower and get rid of shares at that resistance area of the 15 because we knew that was going to be an issue. But being that we now traded up there, and obviously, you know, it's at least an hour, if not more, since that's a 2 minute. So it's about, you know, 2 hours, I think. If we pull back now and holds and we get a higher high, then our expectation that we should be able to clear that 15 and hit at least the 30 should be enhanced, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Completely agree with you. Absolutely. And the trick is, or the important part is, how do we deal with this top of this base? And you guys have seen enough of these to know that when things are working well, we hold the top of this base. And when they're not working well, we'll penetrate into that. Again, that's a measurement that says, yes, things are good, and I like and I trust this, I'll trust price here. Or no, I may not, if this penetrates much into this base. No, it's eating too far into support. More weakness than I want to see to give me a good confidence in going long, unless I see something change. But yeah, you're right. At this point, I still think that 30 is a possibility, and ultimately 60. I mean, that's what I'm thinking now. Will we get there? I don't know. But that's the 2 points of reference we have to deal with.
Because in all the higher frames, although we had previously broken the trend, we had never changed the trend. It's still the downtrend. So on the 5, between 11:30 and 1 o'clock, which with you would be 9:30 to.
Yep. 11.
We broke that downtrend, but we actually had not changed the trend.
Well,
and then it pulled back.
Yeah, that's true. The trend truly isn't up yet,
Right.
and the trend is not going to be up until what? Until we trade here.
Right.
Okay. So, again, I'm not. I like to buy this part of the W bottom. That's the area I want to be in. normal formation. And yes, the high odds play is to wait till we come up here, come back, buy a higher, and have something like that. That's the high odds play for sure. Is to wait for this area to become our focal point for our entry. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I just find that this one at the bottom is also a very good entry for this pattern. Again, if you're trading up a 5, then you're really almost forced to wait for this other entry. But if you're trading up a shorter time frame, you don't necessarily have to do that. Okay, guys, I don't really have a whole lot more that I wanted to cover today. I need to ask you guys, what's your schedule Thursday? I know, Dave, it's not good for you if we do after hours on Thursday, is it?
No.
Okay. I'm wondering, I've got to...
I just have to be, I have to leave the house at 5:30, so...
Okay. Well, actually, what I'm thinking, guys, is let me send you an email. I'm thinking I've got a potential conflict for Thursday. I know I could probably start a lesson by about. You got to leave by 5:30 or 3:30.
5:30 Eastern. So.
Yeah. I'm thinking that I could probably start a lesson around 3 or 3:30 on Thursday if I have this conflict that I'm thinking potentially that I may have. Is that going to be a problem, guys? For anybody, if we push that back to